We're
Yeah.
on.
Cool. So where do we start?
So you were saying something really beautiful. Well, anyways, I want to say thank you. Thank you for this kind of, we've been wanting to do this in light of what's happening in the world, to just kind of really bring a beautiful presence to this change. You know, in the midst of us feeling these unbelievable, powerful emotions, you know, moving anywhere from shame to rage to anger to excitement to joy to like, whoa, it's happening. We're actually shifting, and not just shifting for Black people, but shifting for the entire world, for humanity. And I'm just really grateful to have people like yourself in my life. I feel like you're like my soul brother. You know, we've been really
Definitely.
together.
I mean, we're so far apart, but like so connected. I adore you, honestly. And it is really, it is really interesting to be alive right now and to see the change, like to actually see it, like, and know that it's not just something that's happening in my neighborhood, but that it's happening over the whole world. I mean, like, we really, like, it's almost like everything just like stopped. We went from like everyone doing all their things, and then the whole world just stopped, like like just abruptly, like the whole world. And I don't think that's ever happened before. I'm not aware of that ever happening.
Well, not in our generation.
Not in our generation, at least, where like everything stopped, you know?
Yeah.
And then I think the thing that's very interesting is like we had this time to like work on ourselves, be introspective, clean our apartments or like whatever, but we just had time to just like slow down and like self-care and just get out of the rat race that we're normally in. And so it was very interesting to go from quarantine to all of a sudden
like riots.
yeah, like yeah, we went from like peace and like everything just is like in a container to like, holy crap, the whole world is witnessing another Black man being killed in America. And then
the whole world
grabbed onto it, which is very interesting. And that's why I think this is like, we're in the midst of a change, because I've seen videos like this before. It's like, it's not like it's new. Like I've seen these kind of videos numerous times, but the fact that I think it was because we were so quiet and there was nothing else to grab onto. The video of George Floyd being killed by those police officers made such an impact. And I'm still curious of what created the, like, what made everyone like feel so personally attached to it that they like, that it became a global conversation. Go ahead. I feel like you want to say something.
What you just said is really interesting. And as you were asking the question, a perspective dropped in. Because you said we've gone through this period of just stillness, like in the world, and it feels like most of the planet was in this level of kind of stillness, and all the change and growth you could feel that was happening during that period. It was very challenging for some people to sit very still, and a lot of people were in an enormous amount of fear. I think the whole collective fear body was kind of, you know, also exposed at that time. And we really had to just relax into, there's nothing else that we can do but just be still and be present to what's happening in the world. So it's almost as if everyone just kind of went in, you know, in that inhale of the breath, and they just were watching what was unfolding. So, which means that more people were connected to social media, more people were connected to what was happening on the world platform, more people were connected to each other, more people were still enough to like listen, pay attention. More people were actually visiting that inner self, you know, almost like there was nothing else to do but to like hear that voice that was talking in your head, you know? And it was really hard to be distracted all the time. More people were coming in, getting online and being in community and having conversations and, you know, exploring with different forms of presence, whether it was meditation or mindfulness or yoga or, you know, whatever they were doing. So that felt like this catalyst in the sense that once everyone's eyes and presence was just like, hey, look at what's going on in the world and lots of conversations going on. When this came through, this experience, you know, of Mr. Floyd, you know, just holding a powerful field for change, it feels like, through his life, everyone was watching in a sense. There was no distraction of work or running my business or doing this. Everyone was just in their homes. They were available to see what was unfolding. So, you know, you can see the divine unfolding of everything behind it. You know, absolutely, I believe that. Are there other agendas going on? There's always agendas going on in every layer of life about something, whether they're positive or negative. There's always an agenda. It's what we do in this third dimensional reality. But it's almost like if there is a sinister agenda, it kind of backfired in the sense that I wonder if the expectation that so many people, you know, again, so many people were available to see this and witness this. So it's like, yeah, we're going to get them all, you know, we're going to get them all stirred up. But boy, I mean, people are stirred up in their hearts, in their souls. It's very different than any other outcry I've seen, you know, because then people just get, okay, that happened, I feel really bad, and they go back to their busy lives. But we're still in this kind of space where we're not quite yet in a full busyness. A lot of people don't want to get back into busyness. So they're really turning their attention to like, what is happening? What is happening on this planet? And how am I involved in it? That's the big question. What do you think about that?
So many things. I like just listening and like I was like so many things like it just popped up, but like I guess the first thing that came to mind is like in a divine planned reality, if that makes sense. I feel like this whole thing is to like break down the idea that we're different, that like that he is different than me, that this color is different than this, and like we're coming into the idea that we're all the same and that we all have to have, there's only one of us, you know what I mean? Like, and if you did it to him, you're doing it to me. And so like I feel like that also is happening. And that kind of like popped up. But you said so much, like I don't even know where to start. I'm trying to like it's just like you mentioned that this is like that there could be different agendas that are happening and that maybe there's a sinister agenda that's happening. But I think like no matter how many agendas are happening, the true agenda is that of spirit.
Yes.
And so yes, we can look at it and say, yes, there's a sinister agenda like in this reality here, but that sinister reality, that sinister agenda is what spirit called for in order for the recipe to fit together. You know what I mean? Like yes, like we needed to see. Like I really like. I respect and honor George Floyd's life, and I wish that his family could still be with him and that kind of thing. But his sacrifice of life, and also like played a huge part, and also the police officer that put his knee on his neck played such a huge part, and like just watching like someone's life just taken from them, but like they all played a part in us like waking up and like coming together, and like it's really beautiful because
I'm grateful.
Yeah. And like you
in a
mentioned, like,
strange way. I'm grateful for that, right? Because it's
yes,
like it was the catalyst we needed.
exactly. And like you mentioned, like how George Floyd, like, like his life is honorable and like what happened is like an honor. I don't know exactly how you said it, but like children always see the beauty in life and they always see the truth in life. And I saw a video of George Floyd's daughter and she was like, my daddy changed the world.
Yes.
And she said it with such happiness and such joy. And like to realize that like her dad did change the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this week has been, or the past week and a half, been so interesting to like watch this all unfold and to see it go from and you talk about agendas, but to see it go from like everyone watching this, shock happening, and then people like taking to the street because they're like, this is unacceptable, I can't handle it. And then how the agenda was to shut down that voice of like, I can't handle it. And
Yeah.
like the looting started, the riot started, and we had all these things to kind of like discredit the voice that was growing that said this is wrong.
Yeah.
And we quickly moved through that energy, which was so weird. It was like this energy that wanted to hold it down, but like we moved through it so quickly, and we went into peaceful protests that didn't even just happen in Minneapolis, didn't just happen like wherever. The whole world just got peaceful, and they got out of their houses and they said enough is enough. And like that is like, there's something bigger that's happening, and we are all like, I feel like we all want it to come in. We all want to receive it. We all want to like welcome it, but we don't know how. Like a lot of people don't know how. They don't know what's happening. But like people are waking up. Like I've had so many friends that are white and like whatever, and like they're getting woke this week. Like like woke. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing that's like really beautiful about this, which grabs everyone's attention, is before, when this started in the beginning of the week, the conversation was police brutality to Black people and how like unfair that was, and we finally see it. But then this week we've seen police brutality to white people, to Latino people, to all sorts of people. And that privilege that was given before to say, this isn't me, I can stand away from it, has disappeared. And now it's like, this is happening to us all. Yes. And so now we really have to we have to look at it, see what's wrong with our system, and see there's so many people that are like, they're so confused, and they're like, all these emotions are being brought up and they don't know what to do with them, but they're bubbling up. It's like, it's like we're all like, I don't know. I just think it's so interesting that the thing that's waking us up right now is surrounded by race, which is like inherently like the thing in 3D world that separates us. Yeah. And so like, is this the last thing that that will no longer be separated from each other? You know what I mean? Like, we'll see the commonality in each other. And it's like super simple things, but like, it was so beautiful. The other day I was walking with a friend, and we passed by like 4 or 5 white people walking their dogs. And it was like, whatever. Mm-hmm. But every single person we passed looked me in the eyes and said hello. Not really that big a deal. I mean, I'm sure that happens to everyone, like normal people. But like, for me as a Black man, I can definitely say 3 weeks ago, a month ago, I don't think I would have had the same experience where people wanted to engage with me and say hello. I've had experiences where I've said hello to white people on the street and they look right past me, or they're busy, or they're whatever. But it just feels like we're like ready to connect, and like people are ready to admit their faults. People are ready to see what past ancestral things have happened that created this dimension, and like, how do we break free from it? And I just feel like it's such like a magical moment, and I get chills because and I think this is why the revolution is growing so quickly. Like, you go on the streets and it's like tens of thousands of people. It started off with a couple hundred people, but like, we're realizing, like, we started off like people were terrified to go out of their houses when these started, because you watch the news and you see the things on fire and you see people stealing, and it's like, oh my God. But because of social media and like like all the things happening, people also got to see the news, but then they got to see behind the news
Yes.
and see the beauty that was occurring on the streets, and see the unity, and see the diversity, and see like the safety that like was behind all the chaos, you know?
Yeah.
And so like every day it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I feel like people are sensing that something is something like, I don't even think people can put their finger on what's happening, but they want to be a part of it. And like it's really interesting because like I just love spirit. I don't know, I fucking love spirit because like it's so crazy. Like I'm just like thinking about everything. Like I went to a huge protest on Florida's great. I went to a huge protest on Sunday, and like it was just so many people there, the biggest protest I've been to. And it was so interesting because there's so many young people, diverse people that were all around me. And it felt like no one knew what to do. Like they were all there with their signs, but they're like, what do we do? You know what I mean? It's like people are coming. They're not sure why, but like they're coming. And then these bits of information are being given of like how to, like, of what next. Do you know what I mean? Of like, of I don't know, like I don't know how to explain it. It's just, I don't know what else to say.
You know, it feels like we're globally becoming available. And I love how you mentioned, you know, you walk down the street and, you know, people are connecting with you. And we're starting to see each other. And it's very interesting how you brought up how racism has been used as a tool for separation. And, you know, we both know from our individual and our collective background of really our own personal studies into consciousness and awareness, that this sense of separation that we experience here in this, on this planet, on this third dimension that we have all been sharing, is a dimension of separation, of duality, for us to be able to actually see the extremes, and how we don't, you know, I'm very cognizant of the fact that as we talk about these things, to really bring what is, for me, feels like what is true and what is beautiful and divine about the whole process of this life that we're experiencing, that everything is in divine order. You know, it is necessary for us to experience, no matter how horrific it is, these extremes of separation and duality, so that we can really understand in our hearts, in our souls, in our cellular knowing what oneness is. That there is only one of us here. That, you know, as I look at you, my brother in LA, and I'm here in London, there's just one of us here having this conversation. And that I can look at you and see the reflection of you as, you know, as spirit, as God, as awareness, as, you know, consciousness, whatever name that, you know, we call it. And witness how exciting we're witnessing the almost, you can call it a collapse or an integration of separation back into oneness. And it's being done in a very interesting way that we get to experience, like in a way that every human being can feel. You know, it's no longer like a concept of someone talking to you about it, or you're reading it on a book, or you're watching something, a little video about it. It's just like, whoa, I'm getting this. We were in separation. Someone said because of our skin color, we had to be in separation. And we created all these stories around what that was, you know, because this person has a different skin color than me, or they have a different gender than me, or different sexuality, or different religion, or different, you know, ethnicity, anything. Let me create this story around to build a back to that story, and then let me live from it. And we have been doing that on this planet in our generation, our civilization, for such a long time. And in that moment that you had that interaction with that person, that white person looking at you and smiling, it was just gone. Like, you know, and it feels like the more that we can really see and grasp that, you know, a critical mass of us, I think that's happened, a critical mass of us has really tapped into that frequency. So we can see this change is happening. You know, it's rolling over. It's like, oh, like you said, people are like waking up, like popping over and going, oh my goodness. Like, and it's all been so beautifully kind of orchestrated, which makes me really rest my trust in even more so in that divine awareness. Like, wow, look at that. We've had these really interesting, horrific things that have been happening since 9/11. Everything's just been going crazy. The weather, the fires, the, you know, the different sicknesses, the terrorism, the everything that's been happening. It's all just been like lining up to just kind of break us open, like open, you know, to like, come on, people. You are these amazing, incredible, powerful beings. You don't need to be playing these games of separation anymore. You know, they're really destroying you. And at the same time, you know, because we're emotional beings, it does break our hearts. It makes us sad and angry and, you know, and just this feeling of deep, deep sadness and even fear that we had to move into these expressions of separateness to understand that we're oneness. And it makes me feel like I don't ever want to have to experience this again. You know, I don't ever want to have to go back into the world as a Black woman and be conscious of the fact that as I walk through my world, am I being too Black here? Am I making this group of people uncomfortable because of the fact that I'm Black and I'm a woman and I'm entering their space, or course correcting myself, how I speak, how I dress, how I show up, you know, so that I can make a group of people feel comfortable. You know, I realize I've been unconsciously doing that most of my life. You know, really
we're taught
just
to do that.
Yes.
We're taught, like, I mean, I was taught to do that. Yes. That you wear a smile really big when you're around like certain people, yes. You know, or that when you're around a police officer, you say, yes, sir. Yes. Or like, or if you are uncomfortable or things are wrong, you keep your mouth shut. Yes. Because you don't want to create chaos, you know, yes. Or make people feel threatened with your presence.
Yes.
And that is like, that's what we've been taught as a people. And I hate to interrupt you. Go ahead. I don't want to get taken off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, hold that. I want you to come back to that. Yeah. But I think, yeah, and that's something. And I realize there's a you know, a definite part of people of color or people of any race or gender or preference that have been standing up and saying, actually, I want to be myself. I want to be my authentic self, which has really been kicking off this, you know, integration back into our oneness. All of these things that are happening have been really pushing us back into this oneness. But we're really understanding that, oh my goodness, how we have been living is no longer acceptable. And I say that as a Black woman. But I'm also looking at the fact that, you know, for the white people that I have in my life, they must be exhausted with holding the stories and the stereotypes, the unconscious stories and unconscious stereotypes about people of color, you know. And I said to my friend the other day, I says, I really think we need to change the whole kind of vernacular of white privilege, because I'm affirming that you're privileged. Right? When I say you have white privilege, I'm affirming that you have white privilege. Actually, you happen to have certain privileges because of a collective belief system in what it means to have your skin color. But it's not true, because in a sense, we all have privilege on this planet. We're all breathing. We have beautiful, this beautiful nature, the consciousness of this planet. We have a privilege to be alive at this time on this planet. So I really would love to kind of change that, because I don't want to affirm something that is no longer true. But I want to also acknowledge the pain body, the unconscious pain body that has been there for white people that have had to live in a world where they probably had to adjust themselves unknowingly and unconsciously to really deal with this feeling that they didn't know what it was. I think there's a whole generation of white people that have grown up with the energy and the backlash of racism and separateness and this idea of them, having more privileges over other races and not know what it was, but just kind of move along with it because that was the status quo. That's what they were taught. That's what they were given. It's the whole structure is set up that this is the way I live. And now that it's breaking down and it's being exposed, a lot of my friends that are of white race are saying, I feel shame. Shame that I've been holding this, because there was just a disconnect, right? So it allows me as a person, of color, to have such compassion and empathy. Wow, they're going through their own journey. It's not just about the oppression of people of color. It's about the oppression of every person on this planet that has carried a story, a narrative that has caused them to show up in a world in a way that really is not authentic to humans. The spirit operating as humans. It's been a part of a bigger kind of unfolding of us understanding who we truly are.
Yeah. I love that. Like the whole time I was like just nodding my head because I'm like, yes, true statement. It's so interesting. I don't know how else to say this, but just like for clarity, but like this is why I love spirit. But like the bang was so loud with everything that just happened. Like we were like asleep in quarantine. The bang was loud. Like it was loud. That
wake up.
Everyone had to get on the football field. You know what I mean? Like the spiritual people, like it's so easy to move into that spiritual bypass thing of like, yes, I see what's happening in the world, but like I'm above it and I'm a child of God and like all those things and like kind of just float above it. And I agree with that in certain sense, like absolutely. And then you have the people that are blind to what's going on, but it was so loud that everyone had to come down. Everyone's here and everyone's like paying attention. And so you just said so much. It's like I don't even know how to digest everything and how to even connect back with you, because my intention is to have clarity as I talk to you, and my intention is to be very present to everything that you're saying, to lift this conversation up and to like be like exalted in the truth. And like that's like, yes, that's like where I want to be. And
I don't feel like I don't always feel like it's necessary that you need to respond back to everything I'm saying, but whatever's coming through you, just speak it. Because what I am aware of, and we've had many of these conversations, and this is the first time we've said, all right now we're going to record this because they're so juicy, right? And we realize that because we're coming together, like you said, in this integrity, in this honor and presence and deep listening, half of the stuff that's coming, more than half of the stuff that's coming out of my mouth, it's like, whoa, this is new information. This is cool. Wow, this is amazing, because we're just allowing, you know, that divine awareness to stream through as who we really are in the wholeness of our oneness. You know, there's only one of us speaking here.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that truth in, because like honestly, like what like so much inspired me to like, I think out of everything that you said, or what I connected to the most was when you said that you have compassion for your right friends as they're experiencing this shame that they didn't realize that they were carrying for so long, that they were unaware of like the privileges that were around them, you know, and like now like it's like dropped down like a weight, and they're like, they see it and they like feel shameful, or they feel like scared, or like all these things, and like it's really uncomfortable. And and the thing is, I think that compassion, as humans, we have to learn how to extend that to all of us. Because at the same moment, we have us as Black people that are being asked to like, to open up about all the things that we have always hidden, to open up about all those microaggressions that we just pushed down about racism, to open up about like the uncomfortableness of when a cop pulls behind you in a car and you're not sure what's, you know what I mean? To like open up about like how it feels to constantly see a Black person being murdered. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're being asked to like squeeze up and bring up all this stuff. And that's like really traumatic to like bring it up, because not only are we bringing up the things for our personal selves, but we're also bringing up our things of our ancestors that have never been healed, that never had an opportunity to kind of move through. And so all of this is like bubbling up and moving to the surface, you know? And so I think it's scary. It's really scary, because
Terrifying.
when you bring it up, it's like, what's gonna happen? Like,
Yeah. What do I do with this?
What do I do with it? And is it safe when I bring it up? Like, because like, unfortunately, in our society, the people that bring up those deep, dark things, they are outcast from society, or they are killed, or they are like, there's like a narrative that goes with it. You know what I mean? Like Martin Luther King, who like brought up and showed us a dirty side of humanity. He was murdered for that cause. You know what I mean? But I'm sure it was, there was more to the whole thing, but he, like, you know what I mean? Like we get these narratives that it's unsafe as Black people to like bring up these things. So now, because of this loud wake up call and this curiosity that's happened from the people in the world, like they want to see it. So I think there has to be compassion for others towards us, if that's capable to ask, and also a compassion towards white people who have never seen this before. You know what I mean? Like who are living in this uncomfortableness that they'd never felt before, which is the privilege, or which is the idea of what I consider white privilege. And I know that there's a lot to look at, but the fact that you never have to look at things, or the fact that being uncomfortable is uncomfortable and you want it to go away. Like I've had so many people that are friends of mine that are white that have in this week told me how uncomfortable they are, how fearful they are, how scared they are, how like shameful they are, like all these emotions, and how they want those emotions to stop.
Yes.
And it's been a week and they want them to stop. And I have compassion. I have a lot of compassion, because I'm like, yes, it is uncomfortable. I'm sorry that you're experiencing this. And at the same time, I experience those emotions every day. And so every day. So you, through this situation, are being brought down to what so many of us are feeling. And you can feel how uncomfortable it is. And so it's really great. Like, I'm really glad that as everyone is being brought to their knees and like humbled, like I think we're all being humbled, you know what I mean? Like every side, because it's like it's like shit, you know? And and I'm so grateful for how the police have showed up to show us that, hey, we're not just attacking the Black people, we're going to attack the white people too. Like there's this oneness of like, you know what I mean? Like it really is helping with that narrative of showing our commonality. So I think it's really like I think the thing I want to touch on is there's so many white people that are feeling this new sense of shame and fear and uncomfortableness, and they don't want to feel it anymore. So they're like reaching out to us, like as Black people, because for some reason, I think they feel like we have an answer. I don't know why, but like they feel like we have an answer. And so they're asking us like, how do we take this away? Like, how do I make you feel better? Like, how do we move past this? And I think that has to stop. Like that has to stop.
We have to
Because,
sit in it.
yes, we have to sit.
You gotta sit in it, right? So,
and not just sit in it. I think you have to actually sit in it and look backwards and see what brought this up. You know what I mean? Like this week was super powerful. Like the numbers and the things that are intertwined, like the fact that it's year 2020, clear vision, love that. The fact that like last Monday was like the 99th year anniversary of Black Wall Street being like destroyed. And I have to touch on this, but like I was 26 before I even learned about Black Wall Street. And I don't know where this conversation will go, but I just want to touch on like what it is, if anyone is unaware, if this goes like reaches people. But like Black Wall Street was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It ended in the 1920s, but it was a Black community that built their own economic wealth. They had their own schools, their own banks, their own hospitals, like everything. They were fully supportive. And this is after like so much dependency on white people.
And they were Republicans too, weren't they?
Yes. And the thing is also that's really powerful is they had their own airplanes, like private planes were in this community. Like there was just so much wealth that was building. And in the mid 1920s, the American government and white supremacists air raided and bombed the city and set it on fire and killed so many people. And that's the stuff we have to look back at. That's the stuff that we're healing past, you know, that we live in a world. And even to touch on this, that Black Wall Street, it happened in the mid-20s, 1920s, but it was deleted from American history until 1996. Deleted. You know what I mean? And like, we as Black people and we as a culture have never had an opportunity to celebrate the richness and the wealth and the intelligence of what our ancestors were and could be and how they showed up in the world. We usually get a skewed viewpoint of the lesser of everyone. You know what I mean? We don't get to celebrate who we are. We don't get to look back at our ancestors and say, like, my great grandfather invented this or whatever. We don't have those connections because they're constantly either ripped away, destroyed, or like just completely taken. And so and the reason I brought that up is because it was the anniversary, 99th year anniversary. So there's all these things that are kind of converging. And so, yes, like, and I want to bring this back to what you said about sitting in it. Like, yes, we have to sit in the uncomfortableness because the only way it's going to go away is if we sit in it. But again, like I said, we have to look backwards and see how we got here, because it's not so easy just to say Black people are looting and things are on fire, like send them to jail and like, let's move on. It's like, we have to look at
why these things are happening.
Exactly.
And where that pain body is affecting people in that way. Yeah.
Exactly. And why these young Black children, because when I went out and protested like last week, we were marching and like it was like so diverse, it was beautiful, like great. And it was like right at the beginning of all this. And right as we're turning the corner, all these young Black kids, like they had to be in their 20s, they all like ran out of the group and like started like looting this store. And like I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated because it felt like it was a reflection of me, that like all these people that were with me and were marching for this like solidarity and this saying no to like injustices, that all of a sudden the face of what they were representing was me. You know what I mean? And like, and I felt like I was attached to the looting. I don't know how to explain it like exactly.
I completely get, I understand. I want to say this and then I want you to continue. It's interesting that how we attach, if one group of person does something, the whole group is now marginalized or connected with that. Because I've seen that a lot on different social medias and conversation where they're looting. So therefore, Black looting means all Black, see, that's what Black people do. And I wonder if, and I'd love to be able to say this, for our white brothers and sisters that are watching this, does that happen in your world? When you see a group of white young people or white people being disruptive or causing stuff, does that reflect on your whole kind of group of people? I don't think it does. I think that they're really good at separating and saying, no, that's not us. And we all kind of go, yeah, oh, no, that's not them. So why is that happening with Black people? And it feels like that has been the crux of one of our, one of the things that really, that people of color have struggled with is that when one person does something, we all get lumped into that. So we're walking around with these masks on how we need to act to be able to cover up or to atone for, what a small percentage is feeling in their pain body. And that, it makes me feel that's why I could really feel you when you're saying, I felt the anger. I felt the shame because of what they were doing. I felt connected to that because we've been actually taught that. We're just, it's all Black people. It's not just this group of people because of whatever is happening in their life, in their pain body, they're experiencing this way. And how do we shift that? How do we start being seen as individual beings? And again, there's a group of people that because of their race, they have a privilege to not have to sit in that. It's one of those other layers, right? I'm sorry, please continue.
No, it's beautiful. And I want to touch back to when you mentioned agendas before, and I was very curious because as I saw these kids running off and all those things, I was super it was how I felt. But on the news, this is what we saw is young Black kids that were looting. And I think the agenda was to create a storyline of fear, and also Black people were looting. We have to shut down these protests because Black people are getting out of control and taking your things.
Story.
Shut
Black
it down.
People, right?
Yes.
Not just this group of people, Black people, right? Yes.
Yeah, and so the agenda was that.
Yes.
But somehow, even with the agenda of the news, people were able to see over it or see through it or see behind it, and it didn't shut it down. And I believe.
And yes.
Go ahead.
And I really want to poke into, because I have seen on social media where there have been groups of people that have posted about the looting, and that's all they've focused on. They haven't seen they're looking just at this part of that, right? See, they're looting. See, that's what's happening, which is continuing the narrative that is so ingrained that, see, this is why we need to shut this down and get back to normal. Because, see, this is what happens when you give Black people a little bit of freedom and they get out and they do that. That narrative is there. That agenda is there. So I'd really like to reach out to those that are carrying that narrative on their social media to say, really look at that and say, do you realize that, can you see that you are contributing to a narrative that is not benefiting people of color, it's not benefiting you, it's not benefiting America, it's just the same old narrative that's been around forever. Can you wake up to see that? Can you let that part of that narrative go to sit to the side and go, okay, but what really is happening in the whole? Because if we give attention to that, that's going to bring up all of that old stuff, all those old teachings, all of those old belief systems, all of that old kind of programming to confirm that this is true. You know, so how do, you know, look past that? Like you just said, even though that was happening, this was happening. Choose to look toward, what is this, you know, what's happening over here?
Yeah, there's like multiple things like that, like kind of came up when you were saying that. And I think it's beyond, like, yes, there are those that are paying attention to the looting, and they're like, oh, look and see when you give Black people a little bit of this, like they take it this far. But I think even deeper than that, of it validates moments like George Floyd being killed for no reason. It like takes away his life and gives like, and almost like we can turn a blind eye to it, because I don't know how to explain it exactly, but I feel like it. Yeah, do you feel it?
Yeah,
like I don't, the words aren't there, but like, I feel like
the deep programming. To me, it's like it's a deep
it's
programming.
like they can look past. It's like it gives an opportunity to look past the death of George Floyd because TVs were stolen. Like TVs were stolen, so I don't have to look past. Like I can look like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's get back to normal, and like let's stop talking about George Floyd. Let's stop talking about this. Like, you know, and so it's like really interesting.
And that's why I'm challenging. I'm really like, can I stretch people that will listen, that will watch this? People, you know, white people that might be feeling this. I'm going to stretch you into looking past that. I'm going to stretch you into saying, wow, is this a narrative that I still want to continue because it feels comfortable and it feels safe, and that I can take that, you know, I feel uncomfortable for a week, and when I want to go back to like how things were, what's the price what's the price you're willing to pay for things to go back to the way it was? You know, is that what you're
especially
really
when
saying?
Everyone around you is hurting? Like, yes, you're comfortable in your bubble, but everyone around you is hurting. Like, is that really the world that you want to live in?
Is that the world you want to live in? Like, truly, is that the world you want to live in?
Yeah, but I feel like we've reached a critical tipping point where it's like it's done. And the reason I say that is because when I was on that protest and the Black kids like shot off and like started looting, I like was, oh my God. But we kept marching, and I was marching next to a white family, and this is why I'm saying people are waking up, or like something's happening energetically. But I was with a white family, and I looked over at them, and I said, I'm so sorry that this is the face of what your support looks like. And the woman looked at me and said, there's no need to apologize. She's like, this is the first time I've ever been out here to support people like this. Like, who knows what pain they're in, you know what I mean? And it just like gave me like a lot of space. It gave me like a huge sense of space, and the shame kind of lifted. And like, and it was really great because there are people that are like, beyond this, you know what I mean? There are people that are focusing on the looting, but there's other people that are beyond this. And like, for the people that are focused on the looting, I don't want to make an excuse for or condone looting at all, but I do believe it has served a purpose, because had George Floyd been killed and there were just peaceful protests everywhere, this wouldn't have gained the momentum. Like we have stopped seeing protests pretty much on the news. The protests have continued. They're just peaceful. So now there's nothing to make you feel fear. There's nothing to make you feel crazy. So the news is like, why are we going to talk about this? Let's like talk about something else. You know, let's talk about coronavirus, you know?
Yeah, let's talk about the next fear bubble, right?
Yeah. And so I do believe in some way, although I don't, like I said, I don't condone the looting for sure in my 3D dimension, but like hovering above it, it was the whistle blow. It was the pots banging, you know what I mean? And it was like everyone had to pay attention, because we do live in a society, unfortunately, because of this systematic racism, because of the other things, that people put more emphasis and connection on things than they do certain lives, like certain people's lives. We live in a society where there's like like levels of of who's better, who's not, like all these things. And
yeah,
the thing that was so beautiful about these protests, I know I'm kind of all over the place, and I hope it will come out together. But the
it's
thing that
all
was
the
really
same story.
yeah, the thing that's really beautiful is before when we had these protests, and it's like why this is gaining so much momentum. But when Rodney King was like horrifically beat by all those police officers, there were riots and there were all those things, there was looting, but they happened within the Black community. So yes, there was all these like, there was attention given to it, but it was like really easy to isolate it and then point out like just leave it alone. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They'll figure it out. Like whatever. They'll figure it out. Like let's keep going.
Yes.
The thing that was like really brilliant about what happened is because we live in a society that puts so much emphasis on things and belongings and money, these looting and protests happen in white communities. And so it was at the doorstep of people that like normally can avoid certain things because of this type of privilege that they have. And like, no, like I'm not saying like, yes, like it's great that like Santa Monica got like destroyed. I don't believe that, and I don't want anyone to hear that because that's not what I'm saying. But I am saying because it happened on your doorsteps, you had to come out and see what was happening. You had to come outside and like see what's happening. And so I think that's like what helped this whole thing like just expunge, you know what I mean? Like it it helped it like ooze its way out, you know? And like and like also like reaching back to this of like not condoning the looters. I want to get really clear about that. But also we live in such a pained world where like I volunteer for this woman, her name's Mama Hill, and she like helps out with like inner city kids, and you know who she is, but like she helps with inner city kids. She offers them tutoring, she offers them a place to stay, she offers them food. She just opens her home to like inner city kids that don't have anything, that have been pushed out of their families, that like their families have kicked them out, like all sorts of different stories that are like super super traumatic and that I never fully understand. But one day, one of the girls, she's 14, she called me on the phone and she asked me to bring her a birthday cake for her birthday. And it was sweet, but I was super busy with work, super busy with life, super busy with everything. And so I wasn't able to connect to her asking. She called me again and asked me again. She said, I really would love a birthday cake. I've never had a birthday cake before. She's 14 years old. I still was not available for it. And I look back and I'm very disappointed that I wasn't able to show up for her.
Right.
And to make her feel seen. But as I saw those kids running through the streets of Santa Monica looting, it reminded me of that girl, because I thought, and maybe this isn't the truth, but I thought for a second, what if it was that none of these kids that are looting have ever had anything for themselves? What if the kids that are looting have never been able to walk into these stores in Santa Monica without feeling judged and without security walking behind them and all these things? Or what if these kids have never been able to sorry, are you there?
Yes, come back, yes.
Okay. What if these kids have never been able to put a pair of Nikes on like brand new Nikes on their feet? And we live in such a society that your person is valued based off of what you have and what you show up as. And so with those broken glasses being done and with those open doors to the stores just wide open, it gave them a permission to step into something that they longed for, or to step into something that they like wish they had, you know? And I don't think
without retaliation.
Retaliation, you know?
I can
and
feel
so
that.
I just think it's like we have to look at the big picture, you know? And why do we live in a society where like, because you live on one side of the tracks, life is like your options and your opportunities are completely limited. But if you live on the other side of the track, you have all the options in the world. Like we live in a world that has plenty and has abundance, and there's so much that we could all have it, you know what I mean? But like, why why the difference? You know,
Yes.
why, yeah, like.
And it's not as simple as, and I, you know, and some people I know, I've heard people say, well, you know, it's because people don't work hard and because, you know, they don't do this. And it's not that simple. It's not that simple when you have systematic programming and propaganda and teachings and, you know, things set up so that another narrative is constantly drilled into a person, into a collective group of people, you know. And this whole idea of like racism, it's important for us to realize that this is not just happening to you know, people of color in the United States of America. This is systematically happening in every part of the globe. So it's in the collective programming and minds of humanity. And when you have that type of someone saying, because your skin is darker, you are lesser, pretty much, that's what it said. Because I've seen it in so many different cultures. I've seen it in friends, you know, you and I have diverse friends all over the world. You know, I'm here living in London, in the city of London, and it's very diverse. But I have had friends, I know of people, and I have friends that shield themselves from getting too dark. Because in their culture, if they are darker complexion, it is considered a negative, in the sense that if your skin is darker, that means you must be poor, you must be lesser than, and you're not as educated. And we see this type of belief system across the board. So if that is systematically in our nervous system as humanity, it almost feels strange to me to ask that question, you know, why do some people have and why do some people don't have? Because it's in our, you know, it's in our humanity teaching. And it's, if you are this, then you are supposed to not have as much. If you are this, if you are of a lighter complexion, you have everything available to you. You know, when I lived in Belize, I saw it in Belize. If you were darker Mayan, you were looked down upon the lighter Mayan, or the Belizeans that were of lighter complexion looked down on the, you know, the dark. And it just was everywhere I went. I could see this narrative, this story, you know, running through. And it's like, where did this come from?
You know? I think also, to take it a step further, that yes, you're looked down upon, but to bring it back into reality, you're turned down for loans. You are not approved for credit cards. You are not given scholarships for school. You are maybe not given jobs because of these things.
If in like India, you're born into a caste system.
Yes.
And you don't have the opportunity to get out of that caste system, right? Because your skin
I believe caste
dark.
systems exist everywhere.
Yes,
I believe
absolutely.
Caste systems exist everywhere. Like, a brilliant movie is 13th. Like, everyone should see it on Netflix. It's brilliant. It like talks about systematic racism and like the criminal system, and it's like really, really good. But like the caste system in America is like, we have created a system that like jails Black men at a rate higher than anywhere else, like ever. And like, we create a system, a funnel of like Black men going into prisons. They serve their time, they come out, and they have a scarlet letter, you know what I mean, stamped on them, because they're portrayed as felons. They can't get jobs anymore. Like, this is the caste system that is like created. And even I can't imagine what it will be like to grow up in a community like maybe Compton or elsewhere, where most of the men that are in the community are probably in jail or dead. And so you don't have male leadership. the people that you look up to are gang members or other people that, because of maybe they went to jail and they have felons, like they can't, they're felons, they cannot get work. And so they're forced to look for other ways to get work, which may be selling drugs.
Families.
Yeah, you know, to support their families. So maybe they're selling drugs or they're doing different things. So these are the people that you look up to. You never see someone in a suit that's headed to Wall Street to do these kind of things. And so I just can't imagine like the hurt and the pain and all you see is suffering. And I don't even know why I brought it up, but like, it's just the pain of this country is just so deep, because we say to, like, I've heard so many people say, like white people especially, like say like, we've all been given the same opportunities. I don't understand why.
No, and that's what I'm bringing. Yeah, that's what I'm bringing up. No, we haven't been given the same opportunities. Not when you have a belief system that anytime another person's skin color is different than yours, then they're less than. There's no way ever that there can be equal opportunity, ever, because that's it's going to get triggered, even if unconsciously you don't see it in yourself. It's going to get triggered at some point. Some situation is going to come in your life where it's going to be triggered, and you will act from that because that person's skin color is different than yours. And I believe it's very strong in the white community, but it's also in the Black community.
Absolutely. I can definitely admit, like, being a Black man growing up in basically Southern Georgia, North Florida, being raised like all white church I went to. We were like the only Black family pretty much. I went to an all white school. Yeah, I went to an all white school. I was taught to believe that people that look like me, that maybe wore their pants baggy or that talked a certain way or whatever, were bad and not for me to be around. And how that translated was me having fear towards people that look like me. Also, how that translated by never being around people that did look like me is that I wasn't able to see beauty in the people that looked like me. I wasn't able to feel connected to the people that look like me. Yes. And so what that built over time, like I never realized it until I got to LA, but I had a deep sense of internalized racism that was like, that embedded in me deeply, to the point where like I would walk down the street, see a Black person with baggy pants, whatever, and I'm sure I've done it multiple times, cross the street because I wanted to feel safer or because I didn't want to like connect, you know? And like, that is like how messed up our system is. You know what I mean? Because I was given those beliefs by, yes, my parents a little bit, but also like I saw it on TV and like I heard people around me and like all those things. And like, because I talk a certain way or I have a smile or I can acclimate into white society, I have set myself off as different than them and not the same. And so it wasn't until I moved to LA that I got to see people that look like me and see their accomplishment, see their beauty, see their talent, see their light. And then I got to like break down that a little bit and like break it down. But the reason I bring that up is because if I, as James, a Black male, like had these feelings, I can imagine what like a white woman from Minnesota that like never has met a Black person, like what kind of like internal dialogue or systems that she's working from, you know what I mean? Yes. And like how that shows up for me, and like why I'm really grateful that we're kind of breaking this down, like really getting into it, like really like seeing this, you know, but like how this shows up for me is like me walking, like, like coronavirus is here. We're told to wear masks to help keep each other safe. Me as a Black man, wearing a mask creates a level of threat for a lot of people. And so I can't tell you, like one day I was at a grocery store and I had my mask on and I came around the corner and this woman just jumped, you know? And like, it really hurts when your presence startles or makes someone afraid, especially when that's not who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I'm not that. But to see that in someone else's eyes is it's a lot to hold on to. And for our whole lives, or for my whole life, I've been taught to bury that down and to not talk about it, and to just keep going and put a smile on my face and like make her feel comfortable in her, like make her feel comfortable in her space. Don't worry about how I feel, but just make her make sure she's unthreatened. You know what I mean?
Walking through the life, making sure that person feels comfortable. You know, I'm living here in London. I live in a very diverse neighborhood, but my husband is white, and you know, we have diversity in our family. And we've been having lots of these conversations, and even to the point that, you know, my husband has last night actually came together with 4 other white men of different descent. You know, one was actually from a white South African, one was, you know, an Indian, mixed race Indian. I mean, just different men. And they were having these conversations. And I don't know how he couldn't get away with it living with me in this house anyways, but to even understand, you know, you and I, the way we are, the way we've shown up in the world, the choices that we've made, you know, because of our families that we've come from, have a certain level of privilege.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
In the sense that we have chosen to walk through the world very differently, you know, and for a long time, I walked through the world. I did whatever I want. I went wherever I want, you know, even though my mother was the first generation, the last generation of her family out of the cotton fields, picking cotton in Georgia and living on the other side of the railroad track. You know, she took us to upstate New York, and she was like, right, we're not living in the ghetto. We're living in, you know, diverse neighborhoods. So we had all different kind of people living around us growing up. But I still lived a level of, if you want to say, Black privilege, because my mother made sure that we went to school. She made sure that we were dressed well, that we spoke well, that we were, you know, educated, that we were smart, because she realized that if we didn't have those skills, that we would really suffer in the world. And there were many times I was growing up, I was kind of oblivious to racism in a sense, because it wasn't necessarily happening in my house. We had all kind of people of color. I could bring home anyone, and my mom would be like, yep, come on in. So you get kind of blinded, and again, to what's happening into the world. It was okay in my life to grow up and love whoever I wanted to love. And so I went through a period of life not looking at racism because it wasn't affecting me directly, although I was experiencing it when I went into certain stores and I wouldn't get served, or you know, or people would walk around, or if I was with another person of color, I'd get people would say something, or so I was experiencing it, but I was just kind of maybe internalizing it and just pushing it down and going, well, you know, just pushing it down and pushing it down. And, you know, I had a really huge awakening a few years ago at a retreat that I went to in Canada on a beautiful island. And it took so many like planes, trains, boats, and automobiles to get there. And I was the only Black person. And I was just, you couldn't imagine the level of uncomfortableness I felt. And that was the first time in my life I'd ever felt that deep uncomfortableness. Throughout my whole journey, I was the only Black person. And I experienced people not wanting to make eye contact with me because they didn't want to start a conversation. I was just ignored. And I felt myself being very small to make their world comfortable. I felt apologetic for showing up and disrupting their flow, that they couldn't be free and easy because now this person of color had shown up in their, you know, in their arena. And once I got to the retreat, there was one other Black woman there with me. And this woman came running across the room and wrapped her arms around me. She goes, oh my God, I thought I was going to be the only one here. And I was like, isn't that interesting? That that's the connection. So she was experiencing the same thing, you know, to get to this incredibly loving retreat that we had. It was a beautiful retreat. We were just really enveloped, and a lot of race, things about race were coming up, you know, so we were really holding that field. But in that moment, I tell this story, is I was walking through this beautiful woodland one day, feeling all of this. And I stopped and the sun was shining on me. And I had the first realization that A, I was Black. And this was like in my mid 40s. And that I was a Black woman. And I just was like, really, Spirit? Really? What is this you're playing at? Like, it was so interesting. Like, it was the first time I ever identified myself as a Black woman. And I could feel, it's almost like all of the collective pain body, the weight, everything just came into me in that moment. And my eyes just opened really wide. And I was like, oh my goodness, look at what's happening in this world. And from that moment, I knew I had to start walking very differently about this separation that was happening within me. It was such a powerful moment. And, you know, and fast forward it to just a few days past, he's saying, it can't go back to normal. I cannot walk through the world anymore apologizing because I'm Black, you know, avoiding the conversations because I'm Black. And as I said to my husband, I sometimes don't want to go down and visit your parents because they live in a predominantly, you know, white little countryside, seaside neighborhood. And it's like, I don't always want to be the Black person sitting at our family table when we all go out to dinner. I don't always want to be the Black person walking along the seaside, you know, with the family. I don't always want to be the person that I stand out. I don't always want to feel uncomfortable. And it's like, I cannot go back to living like that. I will not go back to living like that. You know, and again, I stretch and challenge white people. When you feel uncomfortable like that, can you think about the people of color that feel like that every single day of their life? Is that the world that you really want to live in? You know, just like you, many of my friends are reaching out to me. A beautiful one of my friends reached out to me in tears, and she was crying. She says, I'm so sorry to come to you as a white person, but I don't know where else to turn. And I know that there's a lot of things going around where people saying, well, it's not my job to educate white people. Fine, if that's how you feel. I didn't feel like I'm educating white people. What I feel like I'm doing is I'm holding a container as a conscious person of color and saying, talk about what you're feeling. And I'm going to tell you what I'm feeling. And we're going to wake up together. And this woman sat with me in conversation and let me share parts of myself that she didn't even realize that I was experiencing, that I ever experienced, right? And she thanked me for sharing these things because it opened up her eyes to say, this is not the world I want to live in. And how do I teach my children? This is not the world that you're going to grow up in. So these conversations are so powerful. It's so powerful for us to see that narrative that we're walking through as Black people, but also to say to white people, you need to look at the narrative you're walking in. When you walk around a corner and you see a Black man and you respond, what narrative are you running? Do you want to continue to live like that?
Right.
You know, is that really the world you want to live in? If you say, oh, I love everyone and I'm not racist and I love
and I don't see color.
Yeah. What narrative is running? Because my white husband is sharing with me the narratives that he's running. And he's just like, whoa, I'm seeing them. And yes, they're painful. And yes, they hurt. And yes, sometimes he doesn't know what to say and to support me and my pain body that's rising. You know, but he's doing his work. he's questioning every minute. He's, you know, he's like, we got to sit into this. We got to, when I mean sit into it, it's like our meditation. When you sit in meditation, you're watching everything that's rising, aren't you? It's all coming up. You're with it. And it feels uncomfortable sometimes, and it's ripping you apart. And those shadows are coming up, and your own shadows and other shadows, and your pain body, but you're sitting in it because it needs to, as you say, bubble up. It needs to be revealed so that you can see it and then be guided to what it is you need to do with it. I can't tell people what they need to do with this, but what I can do, you need to sit in it until it makes you feel so stinky and so that you want to vomit. It needs to get to that point where it's literally, you're expelling it from your cells. You're expelling the program from your mind. You're expelling it from your whole pain body. You need to feel it. And once it's starting to rise and move out of your field, then breathe. Yes, breathe. So that you can hear clearly what it is that you particularly need to do to integrate and heal that divide of separation within yourself first, because there's only one of us. And I feel like the more of us that sit in this practice and heal it within, we automatically connect, as you said, to the critical mass, you know, that begin to really heal that pain body of separation, you know, on the deepest level.
As you were talking, I was like wondering, like, for anyone that's listening, like, what does it mean to actually like sit in it? And like, as you were talking, it like, for me, how it shows up is being compassionate, but also like, just imagine what it would be like as a white person. Because I'm sure I'm guessing this will reach people, and like, there's gonna be a lot of white people that see this just based off the circles that we keep and all those things. But like, imagine walking through life where you were the only one that looked like you. Like, you show up and no one else looks like you. And everyone around you that doesn't look like you has their own cliques and their own things and their own things. And imagine the amount of like, of things you would hide about yourself. Imagine all the things that you would like push down about yourself in order to not feel any more different than you already look like on the outside. And like imagine things you would hold back from saying in every moment so that you don't appear like more of an outsider. And like, that's the stuff that we're talking about. Yeah. Like, that's the stuff that I'm asking people to sit in. Yeah. And like, to like also on top of that, like, not only look around and you don't see anyone that looks like you, but like on top of that, throughout your whole day, you're reminded that you are different, that you perhaps bring danger, that you perhaps bring a threat. And how that shows up for me is like, it was so interesting. You were talking about like in your story, like how you're walking down the woodland and you were in that moment reminded that you realized that you're Black. And like I definitely had like microaggressions, but like sometimes they like are like a little above microaggressions where I'm like, holy shit, I am Black. Like, oh my God. And like how that shows up. And like what I'm asking you all to see is like, not only is they're not like a good amount of people that look like you, but you walk into a store with another person that looks like you and the security guard automatically follows you around the store. And that feels like a normal thing. And then as me, and it was so interesting because this did happen with me. And like, I asked the security guard, I was like, is there a problem? Why are you following us around? And my friend was like, don't say anything to him. Like, that's going to create more drama, you know? And I was like, no, like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's our instinct, not to say anything, to just allow these things to happen. And I don't know any of my friends that are white that have these experiences where they walk into a store and they're followed around just because of the color. So you're like constantly reminded. Like, imagine, like, another story that happened for me is I was driving across the country with a white friend of mine, and we were on a road trip and we were driving through Indianapolis, and we got pulled over because I didn't like turn the signal on to turn like enough time, and which was not really the case, but it's what the reason was. But the first thing the cop said when he pulled up to the car was he looked at my white friend. Sorry, my phone's dying, so I keep going back out. I'm gonna get my charger.
Okay.
But he looked at my white friend and he asked, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Are you okay? Are you like, is everything okay? Are you safe?" And like, we as Black people know what that means.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really have to break that down. He saw a Black man with a white woman and assumed that she was in danger. And those are the things that we're constantly reminded of every day. You know what I mean? We're constantly reminded, like, of that our skin color automatically puts us in a position that means something negative, that means something that's offensive. And so, like, as someone, and I love that you
That
talked about,
hurts. That hurts.
it hurts because we just I push it down so deep. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I never talked about this stuff so openly before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, this is why this
Me
week is like
either.
really healing. It's like
Yes.
really healing. Like, as scary as it is, it's healing because it's like, I'm like talking about it, you know? And like, and validating these experiences, because yes, I'm not a victim. And yes, I know I create my own reality and all those things, but like, this is what is happening in the same sense. And so it's
James,
just, yes.
take a breath with me. I want you to go and get your charger.
Thank you. I'm
And
gonna grab it.
so we don't lose your beautiful face.
Okay, I'll be right back.
And I want to just say, I know this is a really long kind of recording. We've been wanting to do this for days, and just because I live in London and James lives in LA, we've been sort of missing each other with our time zones. And I also want to thank James so much, because I know it's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning in LA, and you're doing this so that I have more comfort in my world to kind of get up and talk to you. And I so appreciate that. But you look wide awake. You look wide awake.
No,
Really.
I'm invigorated. I like literally am invigorated.
Yeah.
I know there's people that are feeling, sorry, I'm just getting all this together.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm back.
But I wanted to really, for people that will be listening to this, I want to encourage you to respond. I want you to encourage you to tell us what else you want us to talk about, and go deep into things that you've heard that have triggered you, questions that you have, whatever you're feeling, even if it's just like, we don't like you guys and whatever. I'm fine. I'm holding that love for you as well. But that I encourage you to have these dialogues and post them so that we can share them and we can keep talking about them. Because we are in a paradigm shift, hands down, and it's happening right now.
Whether
And
you like it or not.
whether you like it or not, it's happening right now.
It's happening.
It's not going away. It's
Yeah.
not going to get pushed back into the corner. The world is changing. I think we got a lot of more, chaos and craziness, and probably a bit of violence that is still going to happen while this clearing is happening on the planet. And I want to liken this to nature. Like, sometimes nature will set itself on fire if it needs to have a clearing. And then after the fires die down and you go out and you walk into, the woodlands, you see life sprouting up again, a new life coming up. So, and you can look at fires as a very violent, destructive things. Well, we are going to see this level of violence. It has to surface, and there will be people walking on the earth that are going to hold that baton and move that forward. But if we can use it as an opportunity to really clear and burn out the old belief systems, the old programming, the old conversations, the old narratives, anything that no longer serves you, take that fire and in your sitting, let it burn and transmute all of that stuff out of you. Have the conversations. We definitely will have, we definitely, James and I have talked about this. We're going to bring on all people of color. We're going to bring in other people, of white people of different class systems, people of different groups, so that we can start having this conversation, keep having these conversations, because they move past racism, they move through our sexuality, our genders, they move, you know, women and men, you know. We need to keep having these conversations so that we take hold of this beautiful opportunity to move into, first and foremost, a unity consciousness within, and then be able to outpicture that into the world that we live in. We're in such a great moment of change. I'm so grateful. This is why I incarnated. This is why I'm here, for this moment of great change into, you know, a new dimensional way of being and thinking and living and breathing.
I love the way you kind of just sum that up. It's really beautiful, and it's so funny. It's just interesting. I really don't have anything to add. I don't think. I just love this moment. I love what's happening. Like, I've never felt so comfortable and so just free. Like, it just feels like it's just like shaking off right now. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
shake
like,
it up.
it feels so
Shake it
good,
up.
you know?
I'm
Like,
just for a moment, I'm just gonna have beautiful Simon just stick his head in. He won't be able to hear us, but I want him to just
hi,
wave.
Simon.
And that he's really holding the field here in London with his community, and, you know, supporting and helping to heal the divide. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. See you later. We're gonna have a conversation with you too one day.
Okay.
Bring you in.
Yeah, it just feels so juicy. It feels so good. It feels, and the reason I asked everyone to kind of sit in that, and I know it got kind of really heavy because it's a lot to ask to sit in, but that's how we do this, you know. That's how we
This is how we do it.
That's how we do it. So all I'm asking also, like I've been asking everyone, like I know you just like touched on this, but like have conversations with people around you. Like talk about these things. Like talk to people. Talk to people that are stuck in the mud. Like just like see if you can loosen it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because these things that we're all holding on to, like none of it's real. Like none of it's real. Like skin color's not real. Sexuality is not real.
Stories.
Like,
time is not even real. These are concepts, right?
It's not real. It's all just like things we put in boxes just to like make ourselves feel more like validated.
Yeah.
And like it's like let's just like shake it loose. And I'm really proud like of America. Yeah, like I'm really proud of America. Like we were told, I think last week by our lovely president that exudes so much opportunity to create more love and more unity.
Yes, we have to thank him for being a change agent.
He's a great change agent. He's like ready for it. He was like, I'm gonna be you want me to be a change agent? I'm gonna be the best change agent.
I am. I'm gonna bring all my stuff.
So, but I was so grateful because I was terrified when he got on the news, and I know we're trying to wrap up, but I was terrified when he got on the news and he told everyone that was protesting that it would be no longer, that we would be met with military forces and like all those things, and he really tried to shut it down. And the next day, I saw so much bigger protests. I saw people coming out even louder and but more vivacious and vibrant. And this is what I'm talking about. The change is underway. Like it's already going. It's like people tasted it and they're like, I want more. I want more. I want more. And so for me, I think like I know it's 4:56 in the morning. So I know as I had this conversation today, I have to admit that my words were a little bit difficult to reach at moments. But my hope is that
you were so
listen.
perfect.
Oh, thank you.
You're
but
perfect.
my hope is that whoever was drawn to this, that you receive something that just opens your mind and your heart just a little bit more, that like allows you to just like be a little bit just breaks your heart open a little bit. And I ask if you heard something that I said that you could also bring it to me, like Stacy said, like like comment back and let me know like how I can break my heart open a little bit more.
Yes,
And like
me
maybe
too.
you see me stuck in something that is of the old paradigm. And please just like help me, because I think we have to help each other. And I
Yes.
think we have to be okay with like sitting on both sides of the table and saying things that are maybe wrong, or saying things that are maybe don't work anymore, or saying like just stop being fearful. I think
Yes.
everyone's fearful of like saying the wrong thing,
You need
not
to
getting it
say
right.
it. You just
Like
need to
just
be, it's going to be uncomfortable. You know,
yeah, just say it.
say it so that
Just
at
say it.
least it surfaces and we can clear and we can start again.
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful what you're saying. So beautiful what you're saying.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to kind of touch on is like, and what I will remember from the protest. And there's two sides to this. I didn't know there was going to be two, but there's two. We were marching through the protest to Santa Monica with like, I had to be like 500 people. It was like a great day. And I looked up, we were walking past apartments. I looked up, there was a older white woman, maybe in her 60s or 70s, and she was standing on a balcony. And as we marched by, like chanting, you could see her heart just busting open. And there were just tears of just joy and sorrow and like all of it. Just like you could just see her just opening wide open. And I think it's because she saw something she never saw before. And she saw people in unity and in love and in and it just was rising up, you know. And also at the same time, like yes. And at the same time, I also had the honor that when we were walking back to our car and the looting was happening and everything was crazy and like people were just going like all over, I saw a woman who her store had just been looted and she was standing outside and she was just bawling. She was in so much pain and she was hurting. And it just broke my heart because like I was like, why does this woman have to experience this? And I don't know why she has to experience it, but I do realize that we live on some kind of platform right now where there's multiple things that are happening at the
Yes.
same time, but they're all happening to kind of lift us up and to wake us up. And yes, I have so much compassion for that woman in her store, but I do believe that something's gonna come of it, that her heart's gonna be healed, that you know that she'll be lifted up. But we have to be very cautious right now because I think we have to rise above all the different things that are kind of happening, like or shaking together, and just like lift above it and vibrate above it and realize that we're moving on to something even better.
Yeah.
And it's the pain and the suffering and the joy and the happiness that are all kind of connecting.
And it, you know, what you're saying is, yes. Thank you. And it's beautifully, it segues into something that a message that I recorded earlier about choice. We're at a very beautiful choice point because people are experiencing different things. Multiple things are happening all at once. And everyone is experiencing a different experience, right? Almost like a different timeline. You know, and I had a conversation with my sister and she said, I felt this and then I did, and now I'm feeling this and I feel like maybe we should all do this. And we really talked about it. And I said, we just need to choose where your fractal is, what part you need to play at this moment, because it may not be the same as your neighbor or the person across the street or your family member or even your partner. Just choose where your alignment is in the change that is happening, because this is what's happening on our planet right now is our entire paradigm shift. We are choosing between what worlds we want to walk in next. And we get to choose which narratives and agendas that we want to be a part of. And, you know, this is a planet of diversity. So there isn't going to be a one way. There has always been many ways of things unfolding. So be really clear as things are rising up, as you're having your conversation, as you're looking at all the different, timelines and different realities that are happening. Be clear about the reality that you want to create, because it's also a very powerful time of how we're co-creating a new systems of how we want to live. And if someone's creating something that you don't necessarily agree with and it doesn't resonate with you, choose another, right? There's enough. We are learning that we are limitless beings, that we are the omnipresence and the omnipotency of awareness of the frequency of life, be it that you call it God, the universe, we are that. I am that I am. So the more that we hold this frequency of allowing all of this to rise and have these conversations is to clear, also choose. Let's choose, because it's not necessary that we go back into the old way of just letting someone else choose for us. We'll let them handle it. Let the politicians handle it. Just don't worry about it. It'll all clear out. We are the people that are clearing it out. We are the ones that are driving the change. We are the ones that are creating a new world. Don't leave it to someone else to make these incredible choices for you. You make that choice here. Get really clear on your intention and about what you want to experience day by day, moment by moment, and it will outpicture. And you will coalesce with the communities and tribes of people that are resonant to that same vibration of what it is that you want to create. We are going to see things. We are seeing things. We are experiencing things that we never have felt before. We are going to start seeing dimensions of time and space shift before us. We are powerful beings. So clearly choose how you want to show up next in this world as these old things are breaking away. Believe that everything that no longer serves you can be moved, can be shifted, can be changed, so that we don't continually sit in these old stories and bring them back in. And that's what I really ask of those that are watching or listening, and of myself, to align with what truly is in your heart, that compassion and that love. And however that shows up for you, that's between you and God, right? But there's
the last thing I want to say is, like, the apocalypse is here. and
apocalypse is real.
and we have a choice. Yes. We can see the apocalypse. Oh,
sorry.
We can see the apocalypse as chaos and destruction, and like the burning of like hell and like all those things. Or we can just see, we can lift above it and try our best to just sit and sit in the and just sit in the light and the reflection of the Spirit of God, and allow it to just fall away, and allow it to realize it served its purpose and it's no longer necessary, and to celebrate. To celebrate.
It served its purpose. Yeah.
I pulled some cards the other day, like tarot cards, and it was really beautiful. And it talked about these two worlds, like the old world and the new world, kind of like the old world is falling away, and but the old world was approaching death, the card of death. And when I first saw it, I was like so fearful. I was like, oh my God, it's that. But then as I really looked at the card, I saw beauty. I saw calmness. I saw a sense of like reserve. And I realized in that moment that life and God, that the universe is just as much in support and in need of life as it is of death. And that both play an extremely important part. And so there has to be a devotion to both. There has to be a celebration of both. And so now, as we are in this apocalyptic moment, we get to just, you can choose, like Stacy, you just said, you can choose. You can let this be painful, or you can just like let it fall away and just thank you for what it was. And I accept this new reality, and I allow myself to move into a world where all my needs are met, where everything is taken care of, where I am the exact reflection of the Spirit of God. And so as we move into that space, you get to decide. And so we'll see some of you on the other side, and then some of you we'll see later. But either way, we'll get there. But it's just, how do you want to get there, you know?
Yeah. And if your timeline is something that's completely different to this, then go ahead. You can continue to do that if you desire. But I don't need to go there with you because I'm choosing one of beauty and absolute oneness and unity consciousness for all. Because on the other side is, we are really going to step into what it feels like to create from our potential. And I am all about experiencing that. So if we need to go through this tunnel of fire, of transformation now, bring it.
Bring it. And I think also it's what's been really working for me is like trying my best to step back from like the chaos and just see that everything is, that whole thing of God is either everything or God is nothing. So if it's that, then I have to look at everything as God. I have to look at the president of the United States as God. I have to look at the looters as God. I have to look at the woman that's crying on the side of the street as God. I have to look at the pain and the suffering that I'm bringing up around racism and how it reflects to me as God. And I also have to look at the fact that there's privilege on this earth as God. And then what is that trying to unfold and bring out of me? So that's where I am right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too. Everything is the unfoldment of God. And for us, I know we're not talking about a human God that's sitting in the sky. We're talking about the awareness. There aren't even words that holds each of us. The awareness that is to remember there's an intelligence breathing you, because I am not plugged up to the wall. There is something that's breathing me. And it is that intelligence, it is that awareness, it is that love, it is that unity consciousness that I am sitting in with you.
Yes. I said God, but it doesn't give space to what I actually, what I really want to tap into. And it is that unity consciousness.
I
and
feel that.
Yeah, and I would really ask, I don't know if you're available for this, but since I did use the word God so many times, and it can like resonate with a human form or like some judgmental thing, I would ask if we could hold the space of God, of unity consciousness, just for a few moments as we kind of like wrap this up, and like just be with the eternal love that breathes us right now.
Yes, absolutely. And to know that God is whatever God is to each and every person.
Yes.
But we're also asking to look at the biggerness of God, and that God is everything.
Yes.
Yeah. And that, God is everything. And it's 1:11 here, so that's perfect. So yes, let's hold that.
I love you, Stacy. I think you're incredible. I think you're a divine reflection of beauty, elegance, grace, and so much love. And so I'm so grateful to share this space with you. I'm so grateful that we just talked. I mean, it was just great to talk. So if it's just the two of us, or if there's 100 people, or if there's, one other person, I'm just grateful to be here. And I celebrate the life of every single person watching. And I hope you feel the love of my heart pouring to you right now.
I receive, I receive, I receive.
Yes.
Thank you, my beauty.
You.
Love you.
Yeah. Love you too. Love
Sleep
you.
well.
I will. I don't have a lot of sleep coming, but I'm going to enjoy what I do have. It's
Yes.
good. I'm glad we did this. It's good.
Me too.
It's good. And like, however many times we need to have conversations, like recorded, not recorded,
yes.
more people involved, like whatever. I'm open to it. Like
we need to keep talking.
Yeah.
Keep talking. This
and
is our work.
Yes.
This is our work. Blessings. Love you. Thank you.
Love you. Love you. See you.
Bye.
Thank you, God. Yes. Thank you.